Hello, Theo here, and welcome to the behind the scenes for the Dentonweaver music video. I'm hoping most of you are coming straight from Dentonweaver. If not, please go watch that first. This will make a lot more sense if you do. It's linked in the description below, and it's on the channel Nate is Lame. Now let's get right into it. The first step was storyboards. I took the script that Nate sent me and started making little thumbnails for each frame. This step was mostly about figuring out composition, layout, exactly what I would need for each frame without too much worrying about the details, because that step would come later once I started making stuff out of paper. Now with stop motion animation, especially this type of paper cut animation, you have to be very careful with what angles you choose, because each new angle means a whole new set of puppets, a whole new set of objects, and a whole new set of backgrounds that you have to make. So I tried to reuse things and get creative where I could while still keeping it seeming interesting. Puppets! I started this process on Procreate again, drawing out the characters and figuring out what pieces I would need in what proportions. Then I drew these on paper, colored them, and began to cut them out and actually assemble each puppet. Now I use a system where I poke holes in the pieces and use a loop of wire in order to make articulated puppet joints. I'm going to make a more complex tutorial on this sometime soon, but for now just know it takes about 4 hours from the start of drawing them out on paper to a finished puppet for each of them, and I ended up making 20. We have full turnarounds for both of the main characters, including heads that can be taken off and switched out so that they can turn their heads without having to rotate their whole body. Their hands can also be switched out as well, which is I have all these extras. And then we have the versions for the dream sequence. I didn't do as many. I only did ones that are facing to the left, and then anytime it was facing to the right, I would just flip it, or I would just use one of the heads. I made a full turnaround with the heads. Here you can see everything I ended up making for the video as best as I could. It didn't all fit on the table. All the backgrounds, all the objects, all the party goers, cars from different angles, everything that ended up coming together to make the video. Now for my favorite part, the animation. Just like any other stop motion, it involves a lot of moving the puppets a tiny bit at a time and taking pictures and repeating ad nauseum. I started off using a small tripod taped to a bucket. I eventually ended up using an actual big tripod. That helped a lot. And I used an app on my phone called Stop Motion Studio, which it's free and it lets you do like all the things you need to do for stop motion, so would recommend. For the dream sequence shot, Nate and I actually met up at the library in order to use his projector to project these copyright-free space renders on top of the animation one frame at a time. So that was not done digitally, that was in fact practical effects. It was all Nate's idea. That part was so cool to see come together. After all the animation was done, I went through and added facial expressions and blinking to all the shots with characters that needed it. Final editing meant timing everything, layering and compositing stuff, doing chroma key, everything that made these shots come together, just like what you're seeing here. Nate handled most of that, and I really appreciate that because that helped with the workload a lot, and the final product looked so great. I love what he did with it. Nate and all of Raccoon Tour, thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to work with you. I really appreciate, and I hope I can keep doing more projects like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fantastic day. Honey, please. Hey, you're very sweet, and I know you got comfortable here, but I do need to film. Okay, come on. So sorry.